Human Zone segment tonight. Let's bring in our pal Brett, who joins us from Florida. So earlier today, it was an interesting exchange, and we referenced it, between Congressman Trey Gowdy and FBI Chief James Comey about how to handle journalists who report national security secrets.
Is there an exception in the law for reporters who want to break a story?
Well, that's a harder question as to whether a reporter incurs criminal liability by publishing classified information, and one probably beyond my ken. I'm not as good a lawyer as Mr. Schiff said I used to be.
Well, I don't know about that, but the statute does use the word publish, doesn't it?
It does, but that's a question I know the Department of Justice has struggled with through administration after administration.
I know the Department struggled with it, the Fourth Circuit struggled with it, lots of people have struggled with it, but you're not aware of an exception in the current dissemination of classified information statute that carves out an exception for reporters.
No, I'm not aware of anything carved out in the statute. I don't think a reporter has been prosecuted, certainly in my lifetime, though.
No, that was wrong. Judith Miller went to prison, and we will have Judith on this program tomorrow. So, Britt, do you believe if a reporter violates national security laws, he or she should be charged?
Well, it depends on how the violation occurred. If the reporter received a leak of classified information and wrote a story about it, and the story was published, I doubt very seriously that under the First Amendment, a reporter could be or would be successfully prosecuted. If, however, the reporter were to come by the leak by a burglary or otherwise some kind of theft or other crime, that would be a different matter entirely. The mere act of publishing or reporting, I think, is protected by the First Amendment, which is why, as Comey said, there hasn't been a prosecution of any journalist for this. And Judith Miller, by the way, as I recall, and she'll obviously know this better than I, of course, she went to jail for refusing to reveal her sources.
Yeah, but it was the same beef.
That, which is a different matter entirely.
It is and it isn't.
Bill,
I mean,
she wasn't prosecuted for her reporting.
That's right. But she was prosecuted because she wouldn't say who broke the law, and she knew. So she wouldn't say who broke the law, and she knew. So it's an extension, but you're right, it's not exactly the same thing. But what Congressman Gowdy was getting at is that the law, as written, all right, comes up against the First Amendment. So I think this should be defined in a different way by Congress, because you basically have two tracks, all right? And if John Adams were president, you know, he's going to put you in jail. And if Barack Obama's president, he isn't. So we need to have more definition. Now, Bob Woodward and I shot it out.
Bill, remember this. Anything but remember, Bill, anything Congress writes about this, any law, would still have to pass
First Amendment.
Still have to deal with the question of whether it's exactly
right. But
so, you know, you can clarify the law you want.
You can put a carve-in exception, though, to the law, and right now there isn't one.
Right. No, that's true.
You know, I think that if you believe, you being Congress, that the public is served by having journalists take classified information and publish it, as the law now says, without any kind of sanction, then say it. All right, because now we have chaos. But let's advance the story. Bob Woodward and I did this last week, and we shot it out. My contention is that there are usually ways you can get around the breach of national security if you're a journalist. There's usually ways you can do that when you're given certain information. But now it's like, we know we're not going to get in trouble. We're going to throw it on page one, and, you know, the rest be damned. I think that's the attitude, particularly if they don't like the president and they don't like Donald Trump.
I think that's true, and I think that was certainly the circumstance in the Pentagon Papers case. It was all about the Vietnam War. Most journalists did not like or support the Vietnam War. The newspapers that hired them did not either. They were only too happy to reveal the secrets of what the Pentagon, what the study that was so classified had found about that war. The same was true when I was working for the syndicated columnist Jack Anderson, and he published a huge trove of classified papers that related to the Nixon administration's policy toward India and Pakistan, about which the administration had clearly lied to the public. The classified information revealed the lie. It was the subject of a Pulitzer Prize for Jack Anderson. And while there was tremendous consternation over the leak, and I believe the leaker was eventually identified and punished, there was no thought that he would ever be prosecuted, and he never was.
And that's,
so that's sort of
another facet of the story. If you're exposing government malfeasance and lies and corruption, certainly you can't be prosecuted, and that, I think, should be put in the law as well. But if people get killed...
Yeah, but one man's malfeasance is another person's virtuous conduct. It all depends on where you stand on that. Bills likely depend on where you sit.
It's intent.
Right.
It's intent. You have to see how... Look,
right.
if I release classified information about our Navy SEALs in Syria, and 6 SEALs get blown up the next day, I think I'm responsible for their death. Okay? So there's a difference. Right. And classified information being leaked to the press just on any basis at all, I think journalism has to be responsible in some sense, or held responsible.
I think that's right. And what normally happens in these cases where there's some kind of secret military operation or other secret that would place American or other lives at risk, most of the time when you have a document like this, you're going to run it by the agency involved or run it by some government official to get reaction. That's part of what you do. And you may get it appealed to by the government to say, look, this is going to cause all kinds of problems for us in this conflict we're in or in this surveillance we're doing or whatever. Please hold off. And journalists many times have done that, but that's not codified in the law anywhere.
Okay, but that's obsolete because of the Internet. All right, the Internet has made that kind of practice obsolete because you'll always find a smear merchant to put it out, and that's the big difference, and that's why these laws have to be rewritten. Britt Hume, everybody.